All right, so you look at these cities like Philadelphia, Chicago, LA, and certain teams in those cities, respectively, have teams that are just, it's a given that you like them. If you live in Boston, there's probably a definite chance that you're a Red Sox fan. You live in Chicago, you're probably going to be a Bulls fan or a Bears fan. You live in LA, there's a pretty decent chance that you're going to like the Lakers. That's just the way it is. It's a given. Now, when Oakland was a three-team sports city. And I don't think so anymore because, it's just different with one team as the other teams moved. It was never that way. It was never a way that you were given to be a Raiders fan, and or given to be an A's fan. The only one I could really think of is the Warriors because they are the only Bay Area basketball team. So unless you weren't a basketball fan altogether, you were likely going to be a Warriors fan. So I kind of want to get into like why the A's and Raiders fan base when the Raiders played in Oakland, and even now the Raiders are in Vegas, why it was so divided. So let's get into it. First things first, pretty obvious. A lot of A's fans, I'd say a majority of them, and there's no data on this, so I can't be 100% sure, but I'm thinking a lot of A's fans, the majority, are millennials. People that grew up in the 80s and 90s when the A's were really, really good. Because, that's just kind of the way it went. The A's were really good at that point. And you have to remember when the A's were really, really good in the late 80s and early 90s, the Raiders weren't even in Oakland, right? So that kind of takes away from the overlap, so to speak. I kind of think of it as a Venn diagram. You have A's fans and Raiders fans, and there are some that mix in the middle, like me, but then you have others that don't. And so I think a lot of that is due to the fact that the Raiders were absent from Oakland when the A's, glory days were happening. So that's a main reason. And also, you look at Raiders and A's fans, and they're very different. A's fans are more kind of down to earth, I feel like, kind of, rooted in green color. That's like, a coined term by the A's. Raider fans are more rowdy. A lot of them travel from outside of the respective city to come see them play. I mean, even when the Raiders played in Oakland, you had fans from Sacramento, from San Jose, from all parts of the Bay Area or in Northern California, even Southern California, and other states come to see them. The A's, it's really just Oakland and neighboring cities to Oakland and suburbs. It's not, it's different. And also, the most obvious point, I think, would be the fact that you have really, if you're not counting basketball or hockey, you have a 4-team market between NFL and MLB with the Niners and Giants right across the bay. I think in a perfect world, if you were an A's fan, you were going to be a Raiders fan automatically. And if you were a Giants fan, you're a Niners fan. It kind of gets on my nerves when I see like Giants/Raiders fans or I see A's/Niners fans because like, why can't you just be pure and like one of the cities? But now that the Raiders are gone, it's different because this next generation of fans might not even know the Oakland Raiders were ever a thing. So their default team, just like their default team would be the Warriors, because the Warriors are the only Bay Area team, or the Sharks, because the Sharks are the only Bay Area team, is going to be the Niners, because the Niners are the only Bay Area team in for football, which is weird to think about. And, that's just kind of how it is. And it's unfortunate and it's inevitable because, that next generation of fans will never be able to witness the Oakland Raiders like we did, unless, their fandom was passed down from generation to generation. But, a point I've been trying to make is like, even though the Raiders moved, their fan base is still intact in the Bay Area. Oakland is always going to be the Raiders, where the Raiders diehard fans are, in LA too, but I think Oakland especially, because that's where they started, and that's where they ended before they moved to Vegas. And I think there definitely still are going to be Raider fans in Oakland from generation to generation, but I think that number is going to slightly decline over the years going forward because of the fact that the next generation won't really understand what the Oakland Raiders meant to Oakland. But yeah, that's kind of a little bit unrelated to why the divide is a thing. I think a lot of A's fans are just not interested in the Raiders because they're so different. It also kind of sucks because the A's and Raiders never got along with each other. You see these other teams in other cities that you can tell they get along. They're shouting each other out on Instagram and stuff like when one of the teams is in the playoffs. Like for example, Niners and Giants, right? They shared a stadium for a long time at Candlestick, but like whenever you see, the Giants are in the playoffs, the Niners will say like, "Oh, good luck to the Giants," or like the Giants will be like, "Good luck to the Niners." The A's and Raiders never really did that to each other because there was bad blood, and it kind of made it for the fans kind of awkward because you love these two teams, but they don't like each other. The ownerships didn't like each other, and I think a lot of A's fans kind of just don't like the Raiders kind of persona in a way, like the way they go about things, which is respectable. But I think on the flip side, if you're a devout Oakland Raiders fan and you're not really a big A's fan, then you could say the same thing about the A's. I mean, the A's are kind of the reason why the Raiders moved. If you think about it from a really microscopic point of view, I mean, you look at the Coliseum site itself, not even anything really else to do with Oakland, and the A's couldn't get a stadium together, and they kept moving things around and making it difficult. When the NFL, they wanted to buy the Coliseum and the Coliseum site and build, probably eventually build a new stadium for the Raiders or help them build one. And the A's, were against that. So the A's, probably could have gotten, a new stadium in different parts of Oakland, downtown Oakland. There were 2002 renderings of a downtown Oakland stadium that looked beautiful. It never happened, obviously. And that probably would have kept the Raiders in Oakland because the Raiders would have had the Coliseum site all to themselves. So that the teams kind of helped each other move in a way. I mean, the A's didn't move, obviously, but the A's kept themselves put, but the A's kind of moved the Raiders in a way because they couldn't figure their problems out. And it sucks because that really creates the divide even more, because you hear A's fans that hate the Raiders now, and they say, well, the team's just like, abandoned Oakland. And sure, they did, but was it entirely their fault? Right? Like, the Raiders, I hate the fact that they moved out of Oakland, but is it 100% their fault they moved? No, not at all. First of all, Mark Davis is pretty smug. He wanted to, appeal more to the Raider fan base when he didn't really do it in the best way possible, I think. And also, the A's and the city of Oakland were terrible to the Raiders, and the Raiders were terrible to Oakland, but it was kind of this thing where the A's were kind of playing, games and just not coming up with their own solution, and instead kind of put the Raiders situation in jeopardy. So, yeah, that's kind of why there's a divide. That's why, when you hear about people, fans in Oakland, it's never really always, oh, I'm an A's and Raiders fan. It's usually, well, I'm an A's and Niners fan, or I'm a Raiders and Giants fan, because it's just this interesting divide that's so unique, and it's different than other cities that have mainstream teams and teams that are kind of a given to like. So yeah, anyways, guys, let me know your thoughts on this, and I'll see you guys later, and yeah, peace out.